excited that our law firm is going to start. But suddenly we get to hear that certain obvious factors, to begin with, this key team member with whom we had decided to start this and we had kind of visualized and we obviously segregated in terms of who's going to be taking care of what. Suddenly that person disappeared. So that was one shock. Then we get to know this set of clients who had committed. Another shock. The third thing was in terms of certain obvious set of cash flows, which we had kind of relied on, was not there anymore. So, the biggest learning, and thankfully we came out of it, and that made us stronger. The biggest learning from us was that the most obvious can become the least obvious. And today, when I mentor entrepreneurs in general, specifically women entrepreneurs, this is something we talk about and tell them that don't don't rely on anybody. Just be very sure of what you want to do. And if you make that list and even the most obvious becomes the least obvious, you will still succeed.
Thank you for that. And thank you for so candidly sharing your journeys and your setbacks as well. Kiran, you are a very accomplished author, an award-winning novelist, and also a mommy blogger. Tell us a little bit about your journey. What has got you to the place that you are today?
I think, thank you so much, Kimaya, for that very interesting question because when I think about what has got me to where I am today, I think not knowing where I was heading, not having a game plan. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but that's how it's been for me. I started off as a journalist, and I had my son. I dropped out of the workforce, the formal workforce, to be a mom. I think that I identify with this. And then there's a career, and I started blogging because itchy fingers, writing, you want to keep writing. I was also a serial entrepreneur. So I had a content providing company called Soul Publication back in the first com boom, before the current boom. And we supplied companies like Satyam, Tata Nova, and all the early ones back then. But then, of course, as Archana just said, your most obvious can become your least obvious, and that's what happened with us. And the dot-com boom went bust, and the company folded up. I continued freelance writing. I did other stuff. We started an advertising agency. That was something that we did when my husband quit. He was in the electronics, and we started this to provide advertising solutions. That also, unfortunately, a very obvious client, a big electronics expert, also bust, so we went bust with them. After the books happened, the writing happened, I think the journey, you can't hear me too well? Is this audible? Yeah. So I think it has been a learning experience that things go bad, but you just keep moving on and you keep doing things. Right now we're into handling private finance for investors and traders. And I've been writing my books. The books came about completely from the blogging, Maya. And you have a voice and you just want to use your voice. And I think that's what keeps you going, keeps all of us going.
I really like that. Like the ability to have a channel that you're using your voice for. I think a lot of us have opinions, a lot of us have a lot of things we want to say. Very few of us know how we want to tell those stories. So thank you for that contribution. Dr. Sagrika, you're one of the most renowned HR professionals, and you've also seen business from top down. You've been on the board of several companies. You were the first woman on the board of Metro Cash and Carry, which I do want to discuss later on in our conversation. Tell us about your experience in corporate. What has brought you and your individual journey to where it is today, especially now being the founder of and CEO of Mashworld?
Yeah, so very good afternoon. I know post-lunch sessions are a little tough, but still we are all trying to make it a little more interesting for all of you. So, well, to start with, I was, and I think I still am a very non-ambitious kind of person. So I never, like most of us, we are, especially in my era, there was no set career decided. So when I came to NM in Bombay to do my MBA,
Although I was in good in studies, small town girls are normally good in studies because that's all what we do. So when I came to Bombay, they said, why don't you take up sales or marketing? And I realized that HR that time was very industrial related. That means you had to deal with the likes of Datta Samant, the union leaders. I found it very exciting, not even knowing about the profession. And so I said, no, I want to take up HR. Now today I realize that being in corporate world, and of course I'll get an opportunity to talk about it, HR is the most non-strategic function in a company, and hence in all the boards, people want HR leaders as on the board so that they are like, a good asset to the board. They tick mark the compliance and they don't speak a word. So unfortunately, I I did well. So after MM, I went to Stanford for my PhD and came back, and of course, had brains to talk. So I was not one of those who would keep quiet. So people obviously realized that you load her with more work. So after HR, I started. I was given an opportunity to handle business. I started to do that well. Then given more international portfolios, so it kind of increased, and that's how the journey went. And a point when I lost my father at a very young age. He was 59 when we lost him. My mother was still not in the satsang age, nor was she in the age of, kind of doing parties. So she was completely startled, and her generation is far more, the entire life is revolved around the husband. So she was completely lost. My younger sister lives in Dubai, so I couldn't have relied on her to come and look after anything. She herself has a career to look after. So I thought, let me take a break. And while I was looking after other stuff, I realized I met a lady, in fact, my mother's senior, who was 70-year-old, retired long time ago, was on board of one company, and she was in tears and in distress. She had a heart attack. So when we went to see her, we realized that she was on the board of a certain company where some crook has done some jiggery-pokery which she didn't know, and she has signed the papers because that's how it works. And I in my entire journey have seen that women, the moment they're given an opportunity of the board, they are so excited. They don't even know they are willing to sign up for peanuts at the board level with the excitement of being on board. They will come and share with me. Now I meet a lot of ladies. They say, I'm on the board of this company, but do you know what you're supposed to do? So that's how it started. Matchboard started with that, saying that I will make sure that I tell women entrepreneurs, leaders, and also women in general that what does it actually take to be on the board, and what should you look after. Basically, how do you cover your backside? And because an ICICI Chandra Kochar is always remembered, but the Satyams and the others are not so talked about. So every forum I go to, there's the moment they talk about a woman leader, they say, no, now, earlier there was a bias of women being, very honest. It's no more the same. Why? Because of one person or two person. The percentage is very skewed, but, women are always on the podium. So thanks to me being so charming, I guess, that, every time we are talked about. And so